Stop wasting your brilliant villain ideas for campaigns that may never happen. Why not invest many of them into one singular group, cohesive and rich for every player to find some form of connection and investment in. Grouping your antagonists offers a way of exploring greater themes in a diverse and dynamic way that a singular villain may not be able to offer your TTRPG campaign. So why don't you take a second and consider BBEG instead of BBEG. There are typically two types of sizes for villain groups, but we're largely going to be focusing on one today. You have large criminal organizations, the ones with easy to kill grunts that you don't have to feel bad about when mowing them down in combat, and we don't have to worry about their children or spouses waiting at home for them to come and eat dinner or talk about how their day at school was. However, designing this sort of structure with hordes, grunts, heavies, and snipers, I don't know, go do God's work and play 2005's most important game, Star Wars Battlefront 2, and see how they broke it down and assigned each faction and go off from there. The discussion for today will be the smaller groups that are sometimes above at the top echelon of larger organizations. Smaller groups of villains tend to fall into one of the following commonly assembled groups. You have found family. For this, let's cook on my example for My Hero Academia's League of Villains, a group of dynamic characters that come together and find some sense of connection with one another as their kinship of being outcasts. These oftentimes are villains that the players, if not the characters, will find themselves agreeing with in some form or fashion. And maybe from time to time, we'd either show signs of corruption in the hero system or even redemption in the villain. However, with the League, we have to look at the mastermind in the background, the Demon King himself, all for one, which he, along with some of the members of the Villains of the Leagues, might also qualify for inclusion in our next group. The next group, actually terrible criminals with shared motives and typically dangerous powers, so think more along the lines of the Akatsuki or the Legion of Doom. These are going to be your groups that are more likely gonna try and conquer the world, and are likely independently dangerous enough on their own to be of great concern, so the thought of them being aligned in leagues puts the whole world on notice of their collective danger. And while our last group can certainly be just as powerful and dangerous, you really have a different type of story with the last one, and that's a gaggle of goofballs. Think the Ginyu Force, Team Rocket, or any number of iterations of the Sinister Six. This group is dangerous, but sincerely also a little silly and fun to interact with. These can be lower stakes villains who are more reoccurring and have no interest in taking over the world, or possibly even ending the adventuring party. Sometimes when the times get tough, you can even see the silly turn serious, and these sorts of groups stand side by side with the heroes against a bigger threat. But we've gotten some of our introductory legwork out of the way. How about I put my bronze pieces where my beak is and really get to talking about a couple of villain groups. The Sinister Six appeared in The Amazing Spider-Man Annual Number 1 in October 1964. This is a collection of 6 different Spider-Man villains coming together on the grounds that they're quite unhappy with continually losing to Spider-Man. There have been numerous versions of the Sinister Six in the main universe, Elseworlds, adaptations in video games, TV series, and pretty much hinted at every run of Spider-Man movies, because after you have a couple of movies with a couple of villains, you start hinting at the Sinister Six. Really, it's gone all the way up to the Sinister 60, but that's a story for another day. They have staying power, and that's apparent from the fact that people hunger to see them from time and time again. But why is that? The Sinister Six each are created by science or a dark twisting of responsibility and obsession with power, all core themes and elements of Peter Parker's life. Alright, so let me rapid fire through every Sinister Six member and their themes. Okay, so I won't go over every Sinister Six member because that's a large number of characters to summarize, and y'all are hit or miss on if you like large videos or not. So we're going to go over the big themes and groupings of Spider-Man villains, such as they're found within the Sinister Six. First up, you have the evil scientist or company man. This is a lot of times the leadership we see, people who have great power and great responsibility and painfully misuse both, hurting people to gain an even higher position in life. A very easy to route to see someone as temperamental as Peter Parker, geniuses like Peter Parker in some form or fashion, who pull together the various villain vagabonds to be the Sinister Six. In this group, you have Doc Ock, the Green Goblin, and even Kingpin. They're all titans of villains of brains and battles, so they collect the villains together and offer that as a dark mirror of challenges to the foundation of what Spider-Man that stands for. Next up, you have the dope with some science or power amp. This is where you have your general thug grunt level criminals who are offered a power suit or scienced up some abilities. This is when someone is given great power and has no experience with responsibility. A lot of times they are people who don't fully know what they're signing up for, or are permanently transformed from an impulsive decision to fuse their body with some questionable tech. Here we have the Rhino, Scorpion, and Shocker. Now, the first two are a bit worse than the last one, but the last mentioned there is Shocker, and I'm pretty certain Spider-Man's chasing him until the ends of the earth. The last major group is people who are in disenfranchised position, handle power, and once again, do not handle responsibility. Mysterio, Sandman, Venom, or lastly, you kind of have your psychos who kill Spider-Man because they want to, or it's some game or sport, Kraven, Carnage, or... Okay, let me wrap this one up with a nice little bow. Anyone else out there who has read or enjoys comics is very aware that there's no consistent continuity with any of these characters, which can be pretty neat plenty of times, but can also be one more day on others. All this to say, when taking inspiration, when building your own creation, you get to literally cherry pick whatever you want. Even if you're writing a superhero setting inspired by and informed by the Marvel Universe, but filled with your own creations, you still get to decide what you can connect the dots and how and where and why, and run with it. Peter struggles when he isn't caught up with deals with the devil, or being reset back to basically being in high school. His problems are about power and responsibility. The Sinister Six are all dark, twisted parallels of that concept, many of them powerful and have never handled responsibility responsibly, many of them twisting the distortion of power in order to selfishly beat and probably end the webhead. That's the dark truth of Peter's character, because Peter is very often an angry boy who mishandled power, and that's how Uncle Ben got Uncle Bent. This shows the collective by pieces introduced throughout the story trope. You meet the Sinister Six, or more villains, and then they get together. However, what about a mysterious, powerful group that are all together from the start of the series? Well, with that, I think we'd need to talk about our next group. First appearing in chapter 139 of Naruto, with the introduction of the Akatsuki being Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hoshigaki, the group acts as the main antagonist of the second part of the series, with the members being comprised of round about a dozen people. Depending where you draw the line on canon and who gets counted as one person or multiple people, this group generally comes together because it wants to enact change upon the world, or because Madara Uchiha needed to play 8D chess with the world, history, and reality to try and fix everything. Again, this is our second group that is a gaggle of people that interact and someone pulling the strings in the background. But that's a rant for another day. The iconic version had the desire to capture the tailed beasts for power and amassing money to, generally take over the world, or at least the idealistic crushing of the shinobi world, becoming this great ninja force. So what if I posed to you that the Akatsuki, in being the previous generation of shinobi, they represent the consequences or fallout of war. You have Deidara, who, in the YouTube safe way, represents extremist actions as a result of war. Sasori, who, through his mass creation of puppetry on the battle, expresses the death of soldiers. Hidan stays true to religious progress and dissonance that comes with warfare. Kakazu, war profiteering. Itachi, I don't know how to YouTube save this one, so I'm just gonna say people erasure. Kisame, corruption. Nagato and pain, peace at any cost. Konan symbolically represents orphans and those who are orphaned by war. Orochimaru, knowledge and innovation in medical and sciences. Obito, nihilism, and Madara, delusional extremism and how to make the world better. Zetsu gets to represent the shadow governments, the old money, old corruption. Isn't it cool that they're just so available and interesting and in sync with the themes of the story as a whole that they're able to be looked at under these different lights from these different angles? The story of Naruto is fundamentally about breaking the cycle of hate, so themes that perpetuate and justify the existence of violence, the existence of war, the existence of hatred of those around you tend to be the points of view that are important to the story. This is pretty much where the Akatsuki, representing the origin points and reasons for people to go to war, is a cornerstone as to why they're so critically important to the series, even when they can sometimes be a bit scattered and poorly thought out in other ways. But I'm not here to give you my Akatsuki hot take. That's a conversation for another time. My advice for replicating the Akatsuki is ensuring you know your core theme. True watchers of the channel will hear me call it the main thing. No matter if you take any advice on villain groups or not, know what the main thing, the main theme of your story is and build off that. What question or point of view are you wanting to challenge or give input on? What else makes the Akatsuki special? Their secret sauce, well, they're all exceptionally powerful in their own right, each one posing a high-level threat to the higher end of powers in the world. Beyond that, most, or at least enough of them, have connections throughout the world. Even if not directly linked with the main cast of characters, there's undeniably connections throughout the world built on the bones of the world they come from. What if my players want to be the BBEG? Well, I'm glad you asked. That's where I think the League of Villains from My Hero Academia come in. First appearing in Chapter 11, the League of Villains are sort of the most important core feature of an antagonistic force in the whole of My Hero Academia, probably even more so than All for One himself. There are other villains, but the League of Villains are the iconic ones, the early game to the end game. But why are they here? Why are we talking about them? Because the League, under All for One, represent the fairly inexperienced and low power threats that really mature into their depths of danger by the end of the show. Yes, they all start being capable of disappearing a couple of heroes here and there, but by the end of all of it, there's countless heroes that are trying to put them down, or wait until a main character shows up to be able to put them down. Why have I saved them for the end, though? Well, it's because I think they offer a good mirror for a POV for players to be able to approach. The League wants to see society burn for their own reasons with a range of diversity, and that offers them to come together as they're all outcasts of the world and establish what makes them so beloved by the fans of the series. That's the found family angle. Yes, a gaggle of villains, a thicket of thieves, really only lasts as long in a campaign form in this format. I mean, make your Akatsuki full throttle for a one-shot, but a band of criminals who wants to undo one another is best as NPCs in which you're more generally in control of their action. A found family structure grows to care more about the gaggle and family more than the actual burning of the world, though that's still gonna happen. And that's important for longer stories because you can't have any form of connection, or at least a lot less of a group identity when dealing with the Sinister Six or the Akatsuki. With all of that said, what do we do with villain groups anyways? We world build and tell stories. That's the whole reason you've come to watch me, probably. Hopefully. And if it is, consider being a YouTube member or heading over to the Patreon to support me there. All is appreciated, but back to world building. If you're fleshing out the background or history of your world, think about them in an overview sense. How they got together, what they successfully accomplished, what they failed to accomplish, why are they infamous throughout your setting? Or if they're not, where would they be known? Are they whispered about as villains in some areas, but deemed heroes in others? If you're wanting to explore a group of villains as an active threat for your lovely adventures to overcome, then consider the following. You could explore a group in its origin. Everyone loves the underdog, but it could be troublesome if they're put in a position to be wiped out in their infancy, so be cautious. Perhaps, much like the Chroma Conclave from Critical Role, your adventurers have a fateful encounter with one piece of the group, and they have no earthly idea what they've truly dealt with until much later, when your adventuring party is up to snuff with being able to be the element that overthrows the villains, or the party that got TPK'd against your cool villain group. The group can get together, the group can move through their own plans forward, the group falls apart. That's the life cycle of numerous villains in different villain groups. That's not the part I need to bother to tell you though, but come on, let's keep looking at their dynamics. Perhaps there's a traitor in the group, and that can come to the party in order to help their undoing. Raishan or Itachi in the works, if you will. Or maybe you have a group to go the way of Marvel Universe and invite a bit of civil war into their faction, gaining an advantage against an enemy faction by turning the pieces against one another. A single villain might be able to act as parallel to the world, but a group of villains allows numerous different dynamics and perspectives on that core theme. It allows you to challenge the core theme in a different approach, some that your characters may relate to, understand, or perhaps want to help them redeem. And I think that's where we'll call it there. I'm prone to ramble, so I don't want to get us too out of hand. If you want to hear more about villain groups, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I plan on doing a couple of shorts with additional information that didn't quite fit into the script, and there's no telling how or what I might come up with on Patreon, so I'd be happy if you all join me there. If you're able to support financially, there's options. If you just want to join the Joyride for free, there's option. But until next time, my friends, thanks again for watching. Remember, magpie responsibly.